The ARCA Menards Series race at Daytona was a wild event filled with wrecks, surprises, and breakout performances. One of the biggest stories was Butterbean securing a huge win in dramatic fashion. But this race also featured Cletus McFarland, who stole the spotlight in more ways than one. The entire event was packed with action, and by the end of it, NASCAR had a whole new audience paying attention. From the start, the race was set to be chaotic. Daytona is known for its high-speed pack racing, where cars can run inches apart, making even the slightest mistake costly. With a field full of hungry drivers, many of whom had limited drafting experience, the chance at wrecks was high. The race lived up to expectations when, early on, a massive 15-car pileup took out several strong contenders. This left only a handful of cars that weren't damaged in some way. Butterbean, driving the number 28 for Pinnacle Racing Group, was one of the lucky ones who managed to stay clean. Butterbean's win was impressive for several reasons. First, this was his official arrival on the NASCAR scene. While he had already gained respect in the short track world, winning at Daytona, even in ARCA, is a huge deal. He also proved his ability to survive the chaos, as only 4 cars finished without damage. The number 28 car had been fast all day, and Butterbean took advantage of that speed when it mattered most. He led the final 7 laps and held off the competition to take the checkered flag. This win puts him in the spotlight as he moves forward in his racing career. While Butterbean was the story in terms of results, Cletus McFarland was the star of the show in many ways. A YouTube personality with millions of followers, McFarland brought a new audience to the race. NASCAR leaned into this by setting up an in-car camera and live streaming his race experience on YouTube. At one point, over 50,000 viewers were watching just his camera feed. This is a massive number for an ARCA race, showing the power of social media in today's racing world. McFarland's race was short but eventful. He started strong, avoiding the early wrecks and making his way through the field. At one point, he had a dramatic near miss, dodging a huge crash by inches. His reaction, which was captured live, made for an entertaining moment as he celebrated avoiding disaster. Unfortunately, his luck ran out when Amber Balcaen lost control of her car and spun into him. He had no way to avoid the crash and suffered too much damage to continue. Fox caught up with McFarland after his crash. He could have given a boring answer about how he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but instead, he delivered one of the most entertaining interviews NASCAR has seen in years.
How you wanted it to come to a close. What was your experience like as a whole?
Well, I was having the best day of my life. Ripping around Daytona like a bald eagle. I was flat out, avoided a wreck, which was awesome. I thought I was the best driver to ever exist in that moment. And it's probably because my sleeves were cut off that I was able to pull off that maneuver, come down pit road. Then someone slammed into my rear left quarter, spun me out, lived through that, got some fresh tires, went back out of there. I'm hot dogging into 1 and 2, and the car lost it in front of me, and I saw it, didn't have enough brakes to get slowed down before it, and tried to go around it, misread it, zigged instead of zagged when I should have zagged, and I zigged, and bam, blew the front end right off my hot rod.
This is the kind of energy NASCAR used to have. Drivers with real personalities. People who weren't afraid to have fun, crack jokes, and show emotion. Somewhere along the way, NASCAR lost that. Interviews became robotic, and every driver sounded the same. McFarland isn't a professional NASCAR driver. He doesn't have years of experience running cup cars. But in one weekend, he did something many full-time drivers haven't done in years. He made people care. His presence brought thousands of extra eyes to an ARCA race. Imagine if he got a shot in the NASCAR Cup Series. The buzz would be off the charts. We would tune in just to see what he'd do next. That's something NASCAR desperately needs. Viewership has been declining for years, and the sport has struggled to bring in younger fans. But Cletus McFarland proved there's still an audience out there if you give them something fun to watch. He's not the first outsider to bring excitement to NASCAR. A few years, Travis Pastrana ran a handful of races, and fans loved it. Even guys like Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr. had a way of connecting with people because they weren't afraid to be themselves. Somehow the sport moved away from that. Drivers became too polished, too careful with their words. But Cletus reminded everyone what made NASCAR great in the first place. Big personalities, big moments, and a little bit of chaos. Many expected that to be the last they'd see of McFarland in the race, but NASCAR had other plans. Recognizing his entertainment value, they invited him to the broadcast booth, where he provided commentary for the rest of the event. His energetic and fun approach added a fresh element to the coverage, and fans loved it. Even after being taken out of the race, he remained one of the biggest stories of the day. McFarland's involvement in ARCA was a win for both him and NASCAR. He has a passion for grassroots racing, running his own track, Freedom Factory in Florida. His presence brought new eyes to the sport, particularly younger viewers who may not typically watch ARCA races. NASCAR in turn benefited from the exposure, and it wouldn't be surprising to see them work with McFarland again in the future. He even hinted that he could return for Talladega if his car gets repaired in time. The wrecks in this race were a major talking point. ARCA races at Daytona are often unpredictable because many drivers have little experience in these conditions. The early 15-car pileup showed just how difficult it is to race in a pack at high speeds. One small mistake can trigger a massive crash, and that's exactly what happened. Later in the race, there were even more incidents, with some drivers getting involved in multiple wrecks. By the end, nearly every car had some form of damage. The high number of accidents made it a survival race, where just making it to the finish in one piece was an achievement. Butterbean's ability to stay clean was a key factor in his win. The ARCA race was just one part of a huge weekend at Daytona. The NASCAR Xfinity Race Series followed, leading up to the biggest event of them all, the Daytona 500. Speed Weeks always brings excitement, and this year was no different. The mix of young drivers trying to make a name for themselves, seasoned veterans looking for a win, and unexpected storylines like McFarland's participation made for an unforgettable weekend. For Butterbean, this win is a career-changing moment. He's now a full-time ARCA driver, and this victory gives him momentum heading into the season. While ARCA is a stepping stone, success at this level can open doors in NASCAR's higher series. If he continues to perform well, it wouldn't be surprising to see him get opportunities in the NASCAR Truck Series or even the Xfinity Series in the future. McFarland's involvement also raises interesting possibilities for NASCAR. The sport has been looking for ways to attract new fans, especially younger ones, and working with influencers like McFarland could be a great strategy. His presence shows that there is an appetite for content that blends racing with entertainment. If NASCAR can find ways to integrate personalities like McFarland into their broadcast, it could help bring in a fresh audience. Another key takeaway from this race is the importance of equipment. Butterbean had a great car with the number 2018, which was already known for being one of the best in ARCA. Even in a race with so many crashes, having a fast and well-prepared car made a difference. Drivers can have talent, but in a race like this, being in top-tier equipment can help them capitalize on opportunities. And that's all we have for today's episode. Don't forget to give this video a like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell while you're down there.